Time now for the Robotic Milking Minute. Thinking about robotic milking on your dairy? Here with us now is Greg Larson from Gia Farm Technologies to discuss planning and management tips for robotic operations.
Greg, this month we're discussing the role of robotic milking as it relates to cow health and nutrition. Is feed the primary motivation for that cow to visit the robot?
Feeding is a very critical element in regards to motivation for that cow, absolutely. The primary factor, though, in regards to motivation for the cow is really how we handle the cow trafficking systems during the design process, and the difference being either free cow traffic or milk-first barn trafficking systems. And the producer really needs to understand and get as educated as they possibly can in regards to the differences of feedstuffs fed at the feed fence versus the amount of pellets fed in the robot per milking per box per day in regards to free cow traffic versus milk first, because there is significant differences and philosophies and strategies of how you handle those cows in a robotic milking operation.
There's some cows that are going to be a little more motivated.
Yes, absolutely. When you take a look at performance and evaluating performance, we break down cows basically 1 to 40 days in milk, 40 to 100 days in milk, 100 to 200 days in milk, 200 to 305 days in milk, and 305 plus. And what we find basically is that care area of 1 to 40 days post-fresh, those are the groups of cows, because typically with our barn projects and our barn designs, we group those cows in a specific pen for 1 to 21 days in milk post-fresh. So we can get those cows trained in, so we can get them motivated and really start the metabolical process of cow flow going from freestall to robot to feed fence. Typically what we see is we see cows ramping up very close to 3 milkings per cow per day in that post-fresh category. Then when we process into the 41 to 100 days in milk, as long as the feedstuffs are set correct at the feed fence, the feed tables are set correctly at the robot, we're seeing up to 4 milkings per cow per day in that group. And then we're basically managing close to a 3.5, 3.7 milking average per cow per day out to about day 250 in milk. From 250 days of milk until that cow goes dry, we're seeing those cows average close to between 2.5 and 2.7 milkings per cow per day.
So the goals, for those that have done traditional dairy feeding programs and are switching over to robotic, it's very similar as far as the nutritional requirements, but it just sounds like the cow really needs to visit that robotic milking stall regularly and frequently. Huh?
Yeah, she does. When you take a look at cows that are milking hard and the overall management aspect of that, you really see those cows cranking out solid milkings of 4 milkings per cow per day between days 41 to days 250 days of milk, depending on the management style. But cumulative averages on these herds that were operating in milk-first environments, we're averaging well over a 3 milking mark per cow per day and well-managed herds with milk-first facilities. And those producers have been very satisfied with those results.
Greg, can you tell us the take-home message or perhaps what we may be overlooking when it comes to feeding our cows with robots involved?
Absolutely. When you're really coming down to the feeding strategy, the producer has to understand the differences and the cost of production between feeding cows in a free cow traffic environment versus feeding cows in a milk-first cow traffic environment. Because the two barn trafficking systems, the software, the gating, the technology, and the application of feeding cows in the robot are completely different between the two systems. And dairymen need to understand how much feed they have to feed at the feed fence versus the milking robot with both systems in order to obtain the proper milkings per cow per day for a profitable robotic scenario.
Thanks, Greg. Greg Larson is with Gia Farm Technologies.
Robotic Milking Minute with Greg Larson is heard the second Thursday of every month. Brought to you by Gia Farm Technologies and MI1, the no-compromise robotic system to enhance your future in dairying. To learn more about robotic milking, call 1-877-WS-DAIRY.